In the 27th episode of the American Reveille Podcast, I revisit the George Floyd murder with open eyes and an open mind now that leaked footage has revealed that Mr. Floyd may have swallowed a lethal dose of fentanyl before Derek Chauvin became involved in his excessive restraint and subsequent death. Chauvin will walk free. We look at the rule of law versus mob rule, the verdict that must happen to preserve freedom in this country, and our only paths forward from these events. I also touch on the defund the police movement and the consequences we faced as a result of it thus far. I put all the puzzle pieces together at the end, and no one else in the podcasting world goes where I go. I take a turn at Kamala, and I sprinkle a few R.N.C. predictions throughout the show as well. Ladies and gentlemen, let's ride. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Reveille Podcast. Today is Monday, August 24th of the craziest year of our Lord and our life, 2020. And I'm your host, James Lane, and today's episode may be the most controversial episode I've ever written. How controversial, you ask? Well, you'll have to make up your own mind about that. I'm going to just come out and say it. From the evidence I've seen, including the unreleased footage and everything else, from what I've seen, Derek Chauvin, the man who murdered George Floyd, supposedly the man who is responsible for the riots that have resulted in the burning of American cities, the raping of American women, and the deaths of children, most recently in the black community. Derek Chauvin will most likely not go to jail for murder. Why, you cry out in desperation? Why wouldn't he go to jail? I watched him murder that black man in cold blood. Well, folks, it seems we may have been bamboozled. What? You know, bamboozled, hoodwinked, tricked, played for fools, lied to. The new footage that was released paints a very different story, and Chauvin's defense team knows this. The question becomes this. Do we bow to the mob rule and gamble on our freedom, or do we stand for the rule of law and watch our cities burn? What do I believe? Well, I believe he's going to get off, and the left is going to flip out and cause significant problems for the recently re-elected President Donald Trump in March of 2021. What problems am I talking about? I'm talking about riots like we've never seen before. I'm talking looting like we haven't ever experienced. I'm talking violent groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter ransacking suburban neighborhoods and wealthy districts. This will leave the president no choice but to actually get tougher on crime, causing further divide on the left, fracturing the left further as the Democrat Party nears implosion. As I already predicted like 2 podcasts ago. I know, right? So we jumped right into it today, guys. There's just so much going on out there that we really could have done a podcast. We really could have done a podcast on anything. We could have talked about Obamagate. We could have talked about pedophile rings, the hilarious pun on Fox News, Kim Jong-il, that's going around right now because he's apparently in a coma. But I mean, come on, Kim Jong-il, and you and I know that everyone and their mother's mother is going to be talking about the Republican National Convention, which I am guessing will have probably a surprise speaker, possibly General Flynn. Still, really, I thought to myself, what topic could get me in the most trouble and set me apart from everybody else? What topic will get me some more hate mail among my giant stack of hate mail that I've already received? Well, my digital stack, that is. Oh, yes, the George Floyd subject revisited. Of course, guys. I, like everyone else out there, put an episode out when the George Floyd death happened because I was duped, just like everyone else was. And what I thought I was seeing was a cop murdering an innocent black man. So we looked past his record. What record, you ask? Well, silly. I mean, when we all look past the fact that he had multiple criminal offenses, including robbing a pregnant woman and putting a gun to her belly. Remember when we looked past that? So we looked past that. And then we looked past the fact that the other officers involved were multiracial, and we looked past the other video that was released at the time, and then we looked past everything because we saw a horrible 8-minute and 46-second video of a white man suffocating a black man while he cried for his mother. It didn't matter he passed a fake 20 in the store, or that he was high on a little dope, or that he was positive for the coronavirus. None of that mattered. People across the country lost their minds, and Derek Chauvin was arrested for murder. So here's where stuff gets weird. Isn't that enough? Isn't this arrest enough to stop the calamity and chaos in the Democrat-run cities? That's a strange coincidence. It's at this point where the virus begins to spread, not the coronavirus, but the socialist virus. It's not that any of the original rioters are even around anymore. Anyone hear from George Floyd's brother lately? No, you haven't. And you haven't because they have nothing to do with what's going on now. I'm just saying out loud what everyone is thinking. So they arrest Chauvin. The chaos gets worse. Groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter swoop in with sticks, bricks, rocks, bats, pallets of this stuff in U-Haul trucks, if I'm not mistaken, and most importantly, money. Big, fat stacks of cash to help pay for the riots to continue because, folks, riots aren't free. People have needs. Someone's paying for it, and it isn't the fairy godmother. It's Black Lives Matter and Antifa, of course, fundamentally socialist, dare I say, communist groups. Isn't it strange how we went from a much-needed discussion on constructive police reform and training, accountability, and fighting against police brutality to something else? Isn't it strange that just like a movie, it seems a devil whispered in people's ears while crouching atop their shoulder and screeched, defund, dismantle, dispose of the police, not retrain or invest in, just get rid of it once and for all. No debate, no conversation, kaput. Kaput? That doesn't sound like a mob wanting justice. That sounds like an organized attack on, you guys feel me. You guys see what I'm seeing. Yeah, you do. Yeah, this thing started with a movement and got hijacked by the socialists who are parading around pretending to care about black lives. At this point, should we just call them Democrat Lives Matter? Everything's just racist now? Everyone's guilty now? Is everyone going crazy? You aren't alone, folks. Many of us feel like this. You know, on Saturday, we had a right-wing group and a left-wing group kicking the crap out of each other in Portland. They had shields and banners and pepper spray and all kinds of craziness was going on. People basically kicked the shit out of each other. Pardon my language, but I'm calling a spade, and I couldn't help but watch and think about how untrained everybody seemed. And I don't mean any disrespect or offense to anyone, but what I see is acceleration. So before you get mad at me, let me explain. So for a while now, we've just seen riots all over this country. We've seen Bedlam. We've seen Antifa smashing up cities and looting the affluent shopping areas of major metropolitan U.S. cities. And at the same time, Black Lives Matters demands that people turn over their homes and their businesses as reparations? Well, they pretend to peacefully protest and disguise themselves as moms and veterans. They're two-faced operators, ladies and gentlemen, like the Viet Cong during the Vietnam War. Harmless villagers during the day, working alongside the G.I. Joes, yet by night, fierce and organized guerrilla warriors. Now, these lefties aren't that tactical, guys. They aren't that tough. It's not like they're Navy SEALs. They're a mob of ill-informed, emotionally reactive children. But they are getting practice, and practice makes perfect. So what am I saying? I'm saying acceleration, folks. Acceleration. First, just mobs. Now, we have right-wing groups fighting as well. Both groups need work, but they are getting practice. So what do you think comes next? More clashes? More fights? More experience? A rising level of violence? A rising tolerance of what kind of violence people find acceptable? So when do people start dying? Is that okay for people to start dying? Democrats are banking on this violence to receive large bailouts and desperate votes, so why would they stop it? People have to understand that the president can't just go into a state and make things happen with the snap of his fingers. It isn't how our country works. It's not how it's set up. And it would kind of make him a dictator. And he hasn't done that. And therefore, all accusations of his overreach of power have been baseless. Still, the president can put pressure on states to do the right thing through strategic actions and decisions, such as not bailing out Democrat states, which puts pressure on the Democratic representatives to get their areas in order so they don't lose their own elections, or even worse, get convicted of crimes against their own citizens. That's what the president has been up to as of late. But what happens after things seem to settle down next year? What happens after Trump wins the election and March comes around and Derek Chauvin isn't found guilty of murder? James, you still haven't told us why he isn't guilty in the first place. All right, guys, let's back up a little. We all saw the horrible video of Derek Chauvin leaning on his neck, on George Floyd's neck. And we all were outraged, like I said earlier, but we saw a chopped piece of footage, a horrible piece of footage, a piece of footage that does show excessive force, in my opinion, but a chopped piece of footage nonetheless. So we see this man screaming. He can't breathe. We see him beg for his mother. We see what seems like urine and defecation. At least I saw that. And we see him go limp with Derek Chauvin leaning still on his neck. It looks like Derek Chauvin murders George Floyd in cold blood. So what didn't we see? What did the media not want to show us? A good question for later is, why the hell would the media want to manipulate us in the first place? I think we all know the answer, guys, but here's what you missed. George Floyd, from the beginning of the interaction with police, is noticeably agitated and beginning to talk erratically about how claustrophobic he is and how he can't breathe and how he lost his mom recently. And this is all happening before he's ever on the ground. And the officers, they're not mean to him. They're nice to him. They offer to help him. They offer to open the window for him. They seem concerned about him. And this is all going to come out in court. So one thing some folks have picked up on is the big old white tab on George Floyd's tongue as the cops approach the car. And you can see it. You can freeze frame it. It's there on YouTube. He turns his head. He turns back and it's gone. And you know what that was, guys? You know what that was, in my opinion? That was him swallowing his stash. So he didn't go back to jail, except it's fentanyl, guys. It's not Oxycontin. So it's super duper deadly. And he begins to OD, which is why he begins to get more erratic throughout the video. And you know what happens when they did the toxicology after that? They found out that there was a large amount of fentanyl in him. The left doesn't want you to think about this or know about this. They want you to think that talking about this is racist when you know what? It isn't. It's just a fact. And if the left loses the George Floyd argument, they lose all credibility whatsoever. So what happens? What happens when justice prevails, as painful as it may be for many people? Keyword: blind lady justice has to and will prevail. The other police officers involved, they're going to get off entirely. And Chauvin will serve probably a small sentence for excessive force or even involuntary manslaughter with a major reduced sentence, even probation. This could lead to an absolute nightmare for this country, as a large militant force living among us may activate under the guise of the verdict. With that being said, I feel like this is all leading to some of my earlier predictions, including the even bigger split coming in the Democrat Party and the obvious scuttling of their own vessel for strategic purposes coming true. And in the meantime, we still have cities on fire and people losing everything. And at this point, if you think it's just going to go away, you're living in La La Land, which, if you get your news from CNN, you most likely are living in La La Land. So guys, when we get back, we're going to talk about what's going to happen after the re-election and the verdict, and then where we go from there. We may also go down a few small rabbit holes, or we may not. We'll see how I feel, folks. And if you're enjoying the show, I really respectfully request that if you're listening on Apple, please give this podcast a 5-star rating. And if you really love it, please write a small review with it. For everyone else, a simple like and a share, a comment, and maybe tell a friend about the show. Just be a part of the excitement, be a part of the silent majority waking up and coming together. I'm working really hard to grow this podcast from scratch, guys, and I know it will help a lot of people, so please, I'm counting on you to get it around town. I'm James Lane, and we'll be right back.
Reveille Podcast with James Lane would like to take a moment to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to tune into the show. It's because of great fans like you that we strive to deliver the best quality content one can create as fast as one can fling the pen. With that being said, a good little boy never misses his opportunity to sell himself, and though James would never ask you for your money, he would like to let you know that if you absolutely love this podcast, the writing, the art, its production, anything, please do us the personal favor of liking, sharing, tweeting, texting, and talking about this podcast. James Lane is a father, a husband, a U.S. Navy veteran, and is personally committed to the success of the American Reveille Podcast. Please email James Lane directly at podcast@AmericanReveille.com, or please visit our website at www.AmericanReveille.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and I feel the tension in the room. Just kidding. I don't feel any tension because I don't feel any guilt. You know why I don't feel any guilt, folks? Because I, like you, did absolutely nothing wrong, and I, like you, am here now scientifically questioning the narrative, looking at the facts, looking at the video, and talking about what's actually real and provable, not what exists in the realm of fantasy and mob mentality. If Chauvin went to jail to please the crowd, it wouldn't stop the riots. I know that's what they want you to think. I know they want you to think that if you just go against the Constitution this one teensy tiny time, the riots will stop and everything will go back to normal. Well, as Admiral Akbar would say, it's a trap. Yes, it's a Star Wars reference. Anyway, it's BS. The riots wouldn't stop. In fact, things would get even worse because it would give the green light to basically what could be considered legalized reverse racism and inequality. This cannot happen, yet at the same time, when what is supposed to happen happens, when he's found to be guilty of a lesser charge that isn't murder, people are also going to continue to riot and cause problems, and things will get worse as well. So we're dealing with the same exact outcome for both verdicts, right? Wrong. If he's found guilty, it sets a legal precedent for the continuation and acceleration of gaslighting, cancel culture, and witch trials. At the same time, if the integrity of the Constitution and the law is upheld, though violence will continue, no pathway to avoid prosecution remains for the violent criminal rioters. So they basically have no choice but to begin to fizzle out once they draw in the big guns from Trump. What's this mean? By doing the right thing as per the Constitution, a small pathway opens for peace, whereas a sham trial leads to mistrust in the justice system and a legal pathway for more chaos, destruction, and unrest. Some of these folks will never come back. Some will end up the next generation of homeless miscreants, beggars, and vagabonds, while others will become even more radicalized. Again, pushing the divide in the Democratic Party further and further and further until crack, the party splits. This leads us towards the real fight in 2024 when we no longer have a Trump and the left has rebranded themselves a moderate party in an attempt to swing the pendulum back towards the left. Oh yes, The country is headed towards the right at an astounding pace. More and more people are waking up and walking away from the Democrat Party. My own grandma, a lifelong Democrat, someone who always votes on party lines, she told me yesterday that she thought the Democrat National Convention was so negative and gloomy. She says that she's going to watch the Republican National Convention since she can't trust the news anymore. That's a tremendous deal, folks. How many of you have had long-lost friends and family return back to reality as of late? It's happening to me too, guys. People are beginning to unplug from the Democrat matrix, and the Democrats know they have lost. So again, we are heading towards 2024, a 2024 that could literally destroy our country after Trump leaves the next president with the most powerful country the world has ever known times 10. This is what the Democrats are banking on, and this is why they are playing the games they are playing right now. All the while, police departments across the country are beginning to defund. New York, the once tourist destination of this great nation, now comparable to Batman's Gotham City, or better yet, de Blasio's socialist experiment. Los Angeles has basically become a homeless shelter. The entire place. Same with San Francisco. That's Pelosi's hood. Oakland did it, Baltimore did it, and Austin did it. Yes, Austin, the same place that had roving bands of Antifa stopping people at gunpoint a few weeks ago. You know, Austin, the same place that guy legally shot and killed a rioter for running at his vehicle with his rifle pointed. I think Joe Rogan's going to be in for an unpleasant surprise when he moves to Austin, Texas, and realizes it's turning into the next Los Angeles. Democrat oligarchs and all. I found an anonymous letter from an Austin, Texas police officer to the citizens of Austin. I found it on Twitter, and I wanted to read it to you guys. I think it's important that everybody hears it because I don't think it's getting around. It was posted by a Christina Anderson Berry, and I want you to hear it. It's some pretty heavy stuff, so brace yourself and get ready to possibly look in the mirror. It says, "Defund Austin City Council!" From an Austin police officer after being gutted today. Quote, "When we asked you to stand up and give us a voice, you remained silent. When we were at our lowest, you offered no help. When we were being attacked, you watched from afar. When the time came for you to fight for us, you stayed home and kept silent. And to those who didn't, thank you. The Austin Police Department has been almost completely defunded. There's barely enough to pay for our salary, our medical care, and retirement. Now, when the wolf puts a bomb at your doorstep, we won't be there. When a drunk driver kills your family, we won't be there. When your family member's drowning at the lake, we won't be there. When someone crashes into your car, we won't be there. When gangs take over your neighborhood, we won't be there. When you're assaulted on one of the many trails, we won't be there. When your child is lost, we won't be there to find them. We won't be there because your Austin City Council has shut down almost every unit needed to keep you safe and be there for you. They took everything from you while you sat silent. They did it for their own personal gain and agenda. They won't be there for you and made sure we couldn't either. Your guardian, an Austin police officer." So, I don't know about you guys, but I don't feel safe defunding the police. In fact, I like the police. The left doesn't care about statistics. The left doesn't care about facts. They don't care about helping you or your family or anything. So why support them? Why support a political group that makes human beings feel the way the police officer who wrote the letter feels? Why support a political group that keeps fathers out of African American homes in poor neighborhoods? Why support a political group that supports policies that keep people in those poor neighborhoods and shackles them to it? Why support a group of thieves brainwashing entire generations into some perverted form of Stockholm syndrome? George Floyd had nothing to do with the billions in cumulative property damage across this country, not to mention the multiple lives lost, most of them directly from the African American community themselves, some of them even small children, babies. I have daughters. I have a baby. Do you have children? How did Black Lives Matter and George Floyd help all the black folks and children that have died during all this? Can you truly justify their deaths? So with all of this happening next year, Trump's re-election, the George Floyd case, even bigger fish to fry in the Durham trials, yes, we will have trials, stay tuned for that explosion, even bigger indictments stemming out of the Epstein-Maxwell pedogate scandals, and yes, there'll be plenty more. I mean, folks, this movie isn't ending anytime soon. In fact, the locomotive is going 1,000 miles an hour on an endless supply of coal until at least 2024, when the country's fate really hangs in the balance once again. And we see a woman versus woman card for the first time in history, in my opinion. In the meantime, folks, the pendulum is now swinging towards the right, but we have to keep fighting the good fight. We can't let our guard down. We can never let our guard down. And how about Rayshard Brooks? We don't hear about that anymore. No one's asking where that story went. The cop who shot him literally did everything possible to handle the arrest of a drunk Rayshard Brooks, who then became violent, fought the police officers, took the cops' tasers, turned around, shot at the cop's face with it. All of those things had to happen before finally the Atlanta officer shot and killed Brooks. What happened? The psycho DA charged him with murder and tossed him in jail. They aren't even covering news of this on the fake news channels anymore. Did you know the cop sued the city because he was fired and his character was damaged? Oh yeah. This cop's going to get off scot-free, as he should, and he's going to be filthy rich, as he should, since the woke mob will make sure he never ever gets a job again. And isn't that really the problem, guys? Isn't that the main thing that's killing all of us? The fact that there's this invisible force, this thickness in the air, this mob mentality that's causing people to fear acting in a certain way or being themselves or saying what they're free to say in this country. There's an invisible force siphoning away our American freedoms, and that is the woke mob of the left, the radical left scum, the socialist secretions, relics of Karl Marx's worst and most painful bowel movements on the coldest day of winters past. They are the socialist militant hand of the left, the billionaire-funded group of Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And that's what we will continue fighting from here forward. We have no choice, patriots. This is the struggle of our generation. Think about it like this. Just think about the last few days. We watched a DNC that looks like an episode of The X-Files, a psychotic Pelosi freaking out about the post office with Billie Eilish and Taylor Swift showing off their privilege by trying to manipulate the American people, and the attacks on Trump while he's mourning his brother Robert's death are relentless and just make the left look worse and worse. Then the Postmaster General cleared up all the nonsense about Trump apparently destroying the post office. Then Trump earlier announced a breakthrough in coronavirus treatment and even used an emergency authorization on it. Guys, Goodyear is down. Patriotism is up. New blood like Kim Klacik and Madison Cawthorn are bringing hope to a younger generation of right-leaning Republicans and conservative values, and the economy is recovering at a rapid pace beyond anyone's wildest dreams and expectations. There's plenty of reason to be hopeful, plenty of reason to be optimistic, and plenty of reason to plan for the future, because there will be a future, even if the Democrats want you to believe that the world is coming to an end. The real secret is that the Democrats are coming to an end, at least as we know them today. Their base has abandoned them and swung to the right as they scrambled to the left, thinking they could recover, and the true socialists saw what the Democrats were doing. Then they abandoned them as well, leaving the old guard, the deep staters, as we know some of them to be, leaving them all alone to crash and burn. This comes straight from the horse's mouth, folks, right from the socialists themselves. You want to know how bad Kamala Harris is? This is from the World Socialist website, and I quote, "The selection of Harris exposes the utterly reactionary character of politics that bases itself on race, gender, and other forms of identity, anything but class. In response to the eruption of protests against police violence, the Democrats did everything they could to obscure the class issues, promote racial divisions, and propagate the lie that the violence of the police is an expression of the oppression of Black America by white America. The outcome of this racialist campaign is the selection as their vice presidential candidate of a right-wing ex-prosecutor who once covered up evidence to keep an innocent man man on death row and work to tear immigrant children from their parents. So here we have it, folks, agreeing with the socialists for once, yet still, well, not really agreeing with them. We don't think Kamala's very right-wing, but the socialists can go kick rocks, and the wishy-washy self-serving Democrats, including Kamala Harris and the Lord of Light himself, apparently, slow Joe Biden, can lose like they expect to lose November 3rd, while trying to leave as much collateral damage in their wake as humanly possible. Folks, I never said it would be an easy year, but it will be a year nonetheless. One thing I can promise you is that we will still be here November 4th, though some of us may be angrier than others, but at least the memes will be worth it. Anyway, remember what I said, guys, a possible surprise speaker at the R.N.C, and I am guessing a few big announcements as well this week. Care to let me know what you think some of them may be? Let me know in the comments section of any of my platforms, and if you want to reach out to me with any feedback or questions or anything else, you can email me at jameslane@AmericanReveille.com, and don't forget to visit my website at AmericanReveille.com, and don't forget to subscribe to my page on whatever your favorite social media platform is. I am at the James Lane on Parler and at American Reveille on pretty much everything else except for Twitter, because Twitter's stupid. I'm at American Reveille, like at symbol and American put together. You'll figure it out, folks. Try not to catch the China virus, but if you do, remember how great it is to be an American and live in a free country with Donald J. Trump as the president, so that we can receive the best medical care we need without ever having to worry about being eaten by hungry comrades who have run out of their government rations of Red Lobster Cheddar Bay biscuits. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you make Monday submit to your force of will, which I have decided is the PC way of saying make Monday your bitch. So, see you guys next week. Peace!